I can't be the only one that's noticing that there is something that is going around that's causing everybody to have a stuffy nose, a sore throat, and a little bit of that sinus headache. You know, that pressure that you get and where you just want to kind of close your eyes and take a nap. Well, I am up in the apothecary. I've pulled some ingredients. I've been super dry. We're gonna make a really good cough syrup that's just gonna add that mucilage. It's also gonna support your immune system, and it's gonna taste really good because, well, I'm a beekeeper and an herbalist, and we mix honey with everything. So come on, let's learn how to support yourself with some simple ingredients that you can do right at home. What's going on, friends? Welcome back to the Honeystead. My name is Kaylee, and if you are new here, I'm a herbalist, beekeeper, feral housewife, whatever you want to call me. I just do a little bit of everything here on my homestead in Virginia, and you guys are up in the apothecary with me. This is a little cabin that my family and I completely renovated and turned into a place where my mom and I like to practice herbal medicine. She's going to be back here hopefully very soon on some of the videos here this next year. So can't wait to have her be a part of this, but for right now you got me, and I hope that's going to continue to be enough until she is back. But today, this is something I need in my life. It has been so dry and so just the weather in Virginia has been from 60 to 30 to everything's dry. I think they're calling for some snow. I've had my fire burning in my house for the last week or so and trying to just add as much moisture back into my home as possible, but it's not cutting it. So I need to get back into doing a good syrup, a good recipe, and this is probably one of my favorites. So I pulled all the ingredients down and we're gonna start talking about each one, what they have to offer. And then of course I'm gonna give this recipe to you guys because you guys are gonna be able to make it at home. So some of them you might be familiar with, some of them might be kind of new. You might have even seen some of this growing on the side of the road. And that is the one thing that I love about herbal medicine, is that these things can be made in your kitchen from plants that are growing outside, as long as you know what they are. For the last year, Jill from Whispering Willow Farm and I have been working together on building our home apothecary course, and we're celebrating a relaunch with all of our resources, every single ebook that we have put out, the entire course. We've even added a course workbook, we've added more resources, and to not forget about the ones that have already enrolled, you guys will have access to a bunch of free goodies that is actually on the course. We're gonna talk more about that course, but I wanted to let you guys know because our relaunch sale is actually through the entire month of December, all the way up until January 2nd. Now, December 10th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jill and I are actually gonna be putting out a free webinar where we're gonna spend about an hour, hour and a half, just chit-chatting with you guys about the herbs. I'll put the opt-in link down below in the description, and then in the actual pinned comment, I'll put the course with the relaunch information, everything that this course has to offer. You're gonna hear me talk a little bit more about it, but I am in desperate need of adding a little bit more moisture back into my throat, because I'm gonna need it if I'm gonna continue to talk. Now, the first ingredient that's gonna go into this wonderful syrup that's gonna soothe the throat and help with respiratory is mullein. Mullein is one of those plants that you're gonna see, again, you're gonna see it on this side of the road. When it's the first year mullein, it's a little rosette. It's small, those soft leaves, those are the ones that I like to harvest. The second year mullein, it is big and tall, and you'll see it, it looks like a corn cob with beautiful yellow flowers. That is when I'll harvest the flowers and I'll infuse it in an oil specifically for ear aches, ear infection, ear pain. That's my go-to. But for this, mullein is really good as an expectorant. So it's gonna help break any mucus, anything that I have going on up. We're gonna add 1 tablespoon. Now, I did bring my tablespoon, my measuring, but we are going to try not to cross-contaminate, and I will probably let some volunteer because that is what we do. If it's a little bit more, you are fine. So 1 tablespoon of mullein is going in a small pot. Then next I'm gonna add in marshmallow root. Now marshmallow root, another really, it's in the hollyhock family. You're gonna see it, beautiful, soft, velvety leaves. I actually tinctured the leaves, but for this, the root contains a lot of mucilage. So that mucilage is what's gonna soothe everything, especially my throat, which right now I feel like it is just, I have eaten quite a bit of honey to help, but I think I need this. I notice I don't drink as much water as I should this time of year because, you know, I'm not hot, you know, I'm not overexerting myself. So I am catching myself needing this extra mucilage, and I either will take this as a cold infusion, which I have had many videos, I've shared that, but specifically for this cough syrup, it's really gonna help add a little bit of moisture back into it, but it's gonna be 1 tablespoon of the marshmallow root. You can use the leaves as well, but again, the root is really what contains a good bit of the mucilage. Now next, I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of elderberry. I know a lot of people are already very familiar with elderberry. I make a really good elderberry syrup with cinnamon and clove, and I'm actually due to make another batch of it. But for this, let me shake it up a little bit. For this, we're gonna add 2 tablespoons. 1. If you guys have been following me for a little while, y'all know I make a mess, okay? This is what herbal medicine is about. It is about making things in your kitchen, and I'm eyeballing. That's close enough. That's 2. But it doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be aesthetic. You just put the herbs in the pot, add your water, and I'll show you next. Now, elderberry, again, boosts your immune system, lovely for that. You don't want to take this every single day. You actually want to be able to kind of boost your immune system when it's needed, but then after that, just kind of stop. Same thing with echinacea. I'll only do echinacea for about like a 10-day period. Elderberry, a little bit safer, but just know if it's going to boost your immune system, you do want to kind of let your body figure itself out. Now, the elderflower is another really important part to the actual elder tree that you can use. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of elderflower into this. Okay. I definitely added a lot. Hold on, be right back. I'm gonna save this for later because I'm gonna make a tea. And I'm gonna scoop a little bit of that elderflower out, and it's not gonna hurt me. It's gonna be great. But you want 1 tablespoon, okay? 1 tablespoon. Not, that looks fine. It'll be great. We're great. This is good. I'll save this for later. We're gonna make a tea. That tastes really good with chamomile. It can also taste really good with catnip. Great for sleepy, but the elderflower I really like for helping also boost your immune system. And in short, it's also really good if you tend to have like a fever. I've noticed it's really, really helpful. So maybe it's actually 2 tablespoons. We're gonna say 2 tablespoons, but really 1 tablespoon would work. Now the last herb that I'm gonna add is licorice root. Now this is one, it's very strong, but it is very sweet. I very much like this one in only a teaspoon. Since I'm only using, I've learned to have a heavy hand today, so I will not be using this in any other one. So I'm just gonna scoop and do that, okay? Instead of pouring like I did. Really, I need to have like multiple sets of these, but because I don't want to cross-contaminate, that's why I pour. I guess I'm gonna ask for measuring spoons for Christmas, because, you know, that's what we do. But this is really, really beautiful. Now, the licorice is sweet, so it's gonna add a little bit of that. It is also gonna add some mucilage. It's also really good for your stomach. I love licorice. It helps boost your immune system too. But too much can be a little bit harsh, so just a little bit. Now, essentially, this is probably about, I don't have my scale with me, but this is probably a little more than an ounce altogether. And what I'm gonna do is then add 16 ounces of water. So 2 cups of water to about 1 ounce of herb-ish if you didn't have a heavy hand like me. So let's go get some water from the Berkey and I will get this on the stove. And while I was looking for my lid, I realized that I left the lid to this pot down at the house. So I'm going to switch it over before it starts boiling too much to another pot. I do love this one though, because it has a little pour spout. I'm going to bring this up to a boil. Essentially, we're making a very strong, like a decoction, okay? Which is basically what this is. We're gonna bring this up to a boil, then reduce the heat and let it simmer until the actual liquid is reduced by roughly half. Our goal is around 8 ounces. So let this bring to boil, cut the heat, let it do its thing, sit for about 20 to 30 minutes. This is where I like to go ahead and start cleaning the rest of the apothecary. I like to let this cool down a good bit and then pour it over the sink, because y'all know that I make a mess. Use a little bit of cheesecloth to kind of help press this out. Try not to get, if I get a little bit in there, I'll go ahead and strain it again. But I'll press out what I can and then I'll discard. I should have probably grabbed a bigger strainer, but that's okay. I found this wooden little spatula at a thrift store for like 25 cents. I know they work better for bread, but I'm gonna tell you right now, this has become my favorite little tool to add, especially like when I'm hand pressing out like this. So because of the curve in it, it makes it awesome. So I let this cool down a good bit because we're gonna add our honey into it. Now I use raw honey straight from our bees. This is one thing that I really love as being an herbalist and a beekeeper, is by using all the medicinal properties of what my bees have to offer, along with the herbs that we have here. I let it cool down enough to where it won't actually harm the properties that are in the honey. A lot of people will ask about that, so I do try to make it a point. As long as your liquid is around 95 degrees, you should be fine. I mean, the way I think about it, a honeybee colony is 95 degrees. So if the honey in there is good to go and that's the temperature that the bees actually keep it, I think we're fine and we're safe. And I'm gonna add about half a cup to a cup. I'll probably eyeball it and I'll stir it in, and then I'll go ahead and pour it into our bottles. And this recipe is actually good for adults and kids. The one thing I will say is just make sure to do your own research and make sure that these herbs are right for you. This is how you become a better herbalist, by doing your research, finding out, making sure that there's no contraindications, making sure that you might not be allergic to the plant. That would not necessarily be a good thing. So be your own herbalist and do your own research before you take any herbs. But I'm gonna go ahead and add our honey, and then we are gonna pour it in 2 bottles. And then this is gonna go into the refrigerator. It's gonna last for about 3 months unless we use it beforehand, and then at that point we'll make a fresh batch, which is totally fine. And I do try to always make more than one, just in case if I get a phone call from a neighbor or a friend that says, hey, what do you have? I've already got this, it's here, it's ready, and we can end up, you know, using it and enjoying. And that's what being a community herbalist really is all about. But I'm gonna mix all of this honey into this syrup. This is kind of very similar to what we have made in the past with an elderberry syrup. I do this with many herbs. Between fresh herbs from the garden, I'll go and I'll grab a handful of sage and thyme and oregano and rosemary. And I really love making, any herbal concoction that has anything to do with honey or beeswax. And since we're spinning this around, I have had a lot of people ask about my book. It is coming. The editor has it, and I am just patiently waiting to announce more. But I know it will be out this coming year, 2025, and when that happens, I'll be putting it out there. But for right now, I've got plenty of digital content between ebooks and this course. But this online course that we offer really is packed, and we go through many different recipes, many different ways to use herbs, and I've got so many more projects in the work. I just can't wait to share them with you. But this is beautiful. Look how rich this is. That elderberry really just gets in there, and oh my gosh, this is so good. So I am gonna go ahead. I've got 2 bottles. I have a tray because I believe it would be rather weird if I did not make a mess. That would be almost unheard of. But we're gonna go ahead and pour all of this. I'm gonna try to divvy it up. Man, I smell the licorice. It is so sweet as well. Now, if you have children under the age of 1, I wouldn't use this because of the raw honey. You could use a maple syrup in replace. You can also add brandy to this too for adults. I think this one is gonna go directly with me. We're not quite full all the way. Of course, that honey, I didn't add a full cup of honey, so there's a little bit of space. But dosage wise, because I know that's always a big question, for an adult on this, a dose would be 1 to 2 tablespoons, up 1 to 3 times a day as needed. For a kid, it would be a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon, up to 3 times a day as needed. The things that you're going to put on the label, obviously the name of it, whatever you want to call this, it can be goodness, it can be whatever. That's the fun part of making your herbal recipes, is actually putting something good into it. You know, I try to be uplifting, I try to be joyful, I try to be, you know, thankful, share my gratitude. God gave us all of these herbs. It's amazing that we can sit here and make something that I would hands down say is probably better than what you're gonna get at the grocery store. But, you know, that being said, this is why we're doing this. But you're gonna put the name of each herb, all of your ingredients. You're gonna put the date, because in a matter of up to 3 months, if this has not been used, then it's time to, you know, go ahead and make another batch. And then you can put your doses on there too. Like for this one, I'm definitely gonna have the dose on it, because this is gonna stay up here in the apothecary for when somebody may need it. But that is what herbal medicine is about. It's about going and grabbing the plants that you know that you can put together to create something that is going to offer relief. And for me, I am super dry and I am really needing some of this mucilage. I'm needing my immune support. I'm making sure that it's not going any further into my lungs. And that is what I love about herbal medicine. I'll make sure to put the ingredients and the recipe in the description as well, so you guys can always come back to this. But I've got many more tasks to do today and a lot of animals to take care of. And so, as always, don't be afraid to get your hands dirty and learn something old. Bye, guys.